eating the dogs. They're in Springfield. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
People of Springfield, please don't eat my cats. Why would you do that? Eat something else. People of Springfield, please don't eat my dog. Here's a catalog of other things to eat.
They're eating the dogs.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
They're eating the cats.
Meow, 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 meow.
They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
They're eating the cats.
Meow, 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 meow.
They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
They're eating the cats.
Meow, 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 meow.
They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
They're eating the cats.
Meow, 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 meow.
They're eating the pets of the people that live there. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
There you go, brother.
That was our debate monitor, right? The puppy.
Yeah.
That's hysterical. Credit Kifness, right? Kifness, eating the cats. A brilliant genius. That kid's a genius, right?
Right.
But we'll get into that because it's breaking news, right? There's a big thing we were going to talk about that for our debate. We're going to talk about mainly debate, but I guess you wanted it. I guess we have to because of the breaking news of a second assassination attempt. We're gonna start.
Well,
with
I think
that.
the breaking news is that there was a second assassination attempt on President Trump.
Wait, introduce yourself and then do that.
Good morning, brother, or good evening, whenever you're watching.
We are
the Beating the Matrix.
That's
and this
right.
is episode 21. So what we have here is we have another shooting attempt or another attempt on President Trump's life. Big surprise. The authorities have no motive. They have no idea what the motive is.
No idea.
No idea what the motive is. They did find that the person was Ryan Wesley Roth, is the suspected shooter or would-be shooter, or would-be assassin. The way it broke down is he apparently snuck into some bushes along the Trump golf course where President Trump was playing golf. He was in between holes 4 and 5, and one of the Secret Service guys who were ahead in part of the advance and ahead of him by a hole saw the alleged assassin stick his rifle out of the bushes, and the Secret Service agent reacted by shooting at the alleged individual who had an AK-47 with a scope on it and had a set of ceramic plates hung up on the wall or the fence behind him in preparation of using his equipment, I guess, when Trump got to the hole, I guess the 6th hole, or 5th hole, I should say. And then, he also had a backpack with a GoPro and some other paraphernalia ready to be used. So, couple questions that I've been hearing since we got to this point is, President Trump is not a public. He's not a public official right now, so his agenda is not something that's published, like say the president's would be. He is a private citizen right now, and his agenda is kept quiet. So one of the questions that's floating around is, how did this guy know that President Trump was at the golf course at that time? Some
Not
people have
not
tried
only
to say that it's because he saw his entourage. Still, this is a rather large setup to get to this point where he had to have planned it out. He'd had to know that he'd be there eventually at some point, and he also doesn't even live in Florida where this happened. He lives in Hawaii. He used his daughter's car. That was the car he got picked up in when he tried to flee. And after he was shot at, he did take off, and one of the bystanders took a picture of his car, which allowed the Secret Service to wrangle him, and a couple of sheriff's deputies, pulled him over, and he didn't fight. He didn't say anything. Apparently, he just allowed them to arrest him and take him into custody. So this guy does have a history, John. There is a history to this man. He was profiled by a number of news agencies like the New York Times, and he was profiled because he was part of the international legion that was working out of Ukraine, and he was trying to recruit people who had fled the Taliban. He was trying to recruit them to get them to go to Ukraine and fight. So that was in 2023 in May. He's also got a record of being arrested in 2022. He has alleged, they call it a weapon of mass destruction, which was apparently an automatic machine gun, not a semi-auto versus, auto versus semi-auto. So he had this this automatic machine gun, and that, I guess, is considered a weapon of mass destruction in North Carolina, where he was arrested in 2022. So the guy's got a bit of a history here. He lives in Florida. He voted in the Democratic primary most recently, and
wait, he lives
he's
in Florida?
registered. I'm sorry. He lives in Hawaii, but he voted in most recently in the Democratic primary, and he is registered independent. So they have a good bit of information on him already. Of course, they still have no idea what his motive is. So it comes down. They can tell you all the other things. His social media posts seem to be supportive of the Ukraine war, obviously, because he was raising a legion to go fight over there. He was helping to raise it, and he's a construction worker. So I don't know if he has any military background. It doesn't go into detail about that, but apparently he doesn't know to not stick your rifle out beyond to be seen. That he hasn't. So I don't think he has any sniper training. That's for sure. Thank God. So that's all I have for that.
James, one of some of the facts were, though, that apparently it's the 5th and 6th hole, and usually it's cut back by brush, but the brush grows back, and it's also the part that's closest to the road, and so it's yet again another perfect sniper hide.
Right.
That somebody randomly comes up, that somebody who's allegedly completely insane, is yet a second perfect sniper hide that's been created by these randomly insane people to kill Trump. Only this time that the Secret Service, who plays a couple of holes ahead, I guess, was aware. I heard it. One story too was that maybe the drone saw this, but yet again, he had the GoPro set up to film the assassination. He had the plates in the fence, I guess, to so that they wouldn't be able to shoot him and kill him like they did the first one. So that's like an improvement. So you could shoot through that, but one sharp-eyed Secret Service agent. I guess they're getting better at their job now. You have all these people taking a shot at Trump. If it wasn't for that,
John,
we'd have another case of a perfect sniper hide that allegedly created by these crazy people that would have taken with a rifle, been able to take a shot and kill at Trump. Hopefully, though, God would have saved him again as he did the first time. But
Well, I consider this a save by God too. But the Biden administration put out, I forget how long exactly, but it was enough time that it should have been put in place that the both Kamala Harris and President Trump needed to be guarded as if they were the current president. So, in other words, that would have put at this disposal of the Secret Service team everything that Trump would have had when he was president back in 2019. And what we know from when he played at this particular golf course is back then, the resources that he would have had that area covered, and there would have been people in that position and around the entire golf course. They would have had that whole thing sealed off. Now, apparently they didn't because today's incident, but it comes back to where was the person that was supposed to be there. And because once again, the grace of God has saved President Trump instead of the Secret Service. I know that the Secret Service agent is the one who fired off and got him, but got him to run away, and was the one who had seen it. But there shouldn't have been. This guy should, as you pointed out, not have even gotten to that point, because in the olden days, back when President Trump was President Trump of the United States of America, that area would have been sealed off and no one would have been able to get there. So why, after Biden's edict of them being treated equally now, why it wasn't followed through, one can only wonder, John. I'm sure that's going to play into some conspiracy theories.
well, now that you mentioned it, let me go there, because we have to see things. You got to look at, but like they say, there's the front of the hotel, right? But that's not the actual hotel. Then there's the back of the hotel, right? That's where actually all the work is being done. That's where, where people go up and down the stairs. That's where they cook the food. That's where they do the laundry, right? There's the front of the hotel, and then there's the back of the hotel. So when you look at life and events, you gotta always be looking for the back of the hotel. Not that it's a conspiracy theory, but let me note this: that way back in 2016, a particular general, General Flynn, had said, who knew where all the bodies were buried, because he was in the intelligence committee, and knew that it was also well past time that the intelligence community got itself cleaned out, because it was corrupt, so corrupt that when the head of the DOJ/FBI in China defected with a terabyte of information, he couldn't just walk in anywhere. So if you remember, this guy who was literally like the top, maybe the third or so person down in the entire Chinese communist world, had sold off. His daughter had married off into another one of their elite families, was physically abused. Maybe God knows what they did to her, rape, murder, whatever, or attempted, strangling or whatever. So he had to flee with her. He fled with her with a terabyte of Chinese communist information. He couldn't go anywhere, though. He had to specifically go to one of the 16 or 17 different intelligence agencies that we have. I think it was the defense, the DIA, and that's only because the other ones had been penetrated and were so corrupt, right? So so before all that, in 2016, when Trump was going into the to the White House, he'd hand selected General Flynn, because he knew that number one, General Flynn was a top general. He was one of the ones responsible for the surge and wiping out Al Qaeda in Iraq during the war in Iraq. And so he wasn't one of the elite creeps from Harvard, Yale, or etc. He was actually came from a working class family. Like, I think he was one of like 9 or so, or 10 or 11, and he went from state college and he worked his way up all the way up. And so he was a top flight, tough guy, but also knew where all the bodies were buried, and he'd tapped him to be in charge of his national security. And what did General Flynn say? We need to do an audit of the CIA and all these intelligence agencies because number one, they're corrupt, and number two, nobody knows what they're doing, right? Maybe they're going to go in the future and cheat and steal an election. Who knows, right?
Right.
And then
Well, they have been
you have all the
technically the
nonsense.
CIA has been stealing a number of elections outside this country.
Right,
And it's
maybe
almost routine business.
right. So then you had enough. So then all of a sudden he quote lies, right? Right to the FBI. Now what he was doing was he was out vacationing down in the Bahamas or whatever, and he was as he was the incoming administration, he was doing his due diligence and reaching out to the Russian like equivalent of him and talking back and forth. And then he would go on his super secret computer and then log it in per his security detail requirements. The top secret requirements has it if you talk to the Russian, you have to log it in and say what you talked about, right? And put it in the there and send it off, right? So they can't get him for actual espionage or anything like that. And he's just doing his due diligence as the incoming national security guy. But allegedly that gets him investigated by the FBI, and then allegedly one of these two lying FBI agents says he lied, right? And then he goes to Pence, right? And then the Donald Trump's mistake is he asked Pence about this, right? Because apparently they had a conversation, and Pence says he lied, right? And that's how he gets charged, and that's how he gets booted before he can come in to do the audit, right? And now if you asked Trump, I guarantee you today that he would say that was his number one mistake, right? And that's why Pence had to go. That from the very beginning, Pence was a deep state operative, and remember our rule about who your vice president has to be, and that's why Trump got impeached not once but twice, right? Because they knew that Pence was their guy, and they could keep Trump. I don't know. I don't think that Pence is actually like as you said, screwing the dog. As we know, Tim Walsh, the current vice president of Kamali, better watch out because he's been to China 31 times. And the only reason why you go 31 times to China is so that you can have, fun with their child sex slaves, and you can rape them and do all that kinds of stuff. And he has to answer for that. Why is he going? He doesn't work over in China. So what's exactly the reason why Tim Walsh, the current vice president, is going over to China 31 times? How much information does the Chinese communists have on him? What's he doing over there? I don't know. He needs to answer for that. Anyway, so that's the original idea that the out there, the number one. If you're going to call it a conspiracy, you can call it a conspiracy, but somebody has to answer for it because then when he's in Butler, PA, some kid 20 years old gets set up in a perfect sniper hide for who when he got kicked out of he actually got kicked out of the rifle team because he couldn't shoot so well, but all of a sudden now has a perfectly zeroed for 100 yards, and that's how you can tell that it was somebody with Marine Corps training from the deep state CIA, and who called this kid over and taught him at the range how to shoot and set him up for it. Actually had to pull the trigger. And then sets up a perfect sniper hide on top of a building 130 yards away. So it's going to be a perfect shot, and all but by the grace of God is Trump still alive today. Hey, but this is a second attempt. Now maybe this is another lone wolf. How many of these lone wolves are out there? It just seems to happen that at some point it's not coincidence that the only two in our lifetime presidents who grew the middle class, from JFK or Trump, where in their tenure, the middle class not only had more money in their pocket, but got bigger in numbers and got bigger each individually. Whereas even Reagan couldn't do it. Even Reagan could not. And all Reagan did was the exact JFK playbook because he was a Democrat. Reagan was a Democrat. Cut regulations, cut taxes, build the military up, have a strength through peace through strength. Right. The middle class grew under JFK. The middle class in numbers and in statute, and just like that, Trump is the only one to do it since, where the middle class grew in numbers and actually in statute to the tune of $6,000. Right. So the deep state obviously, the aristocrats run. Now the CIA isn't run by the regular people like from World War II veterans and stuff like that. Being run by all these aristocrats from Harvard, Yale, and etc. All these creeps, right? They should be crapping their pants because this is not the first time. This is the second time. God's had to intervene again. And this is, if you go back and look at your history, this is a providence that the founding fathers talked about, that Washington repeatedly talked about, that that Thomas Jefferson and Adams saw again and again and again. Literally the hand of God reaching into human history, going, nope, you're not going to do it. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. And reaching in and going, thank God. It means that God's not done with America yet. One of my friendly Catholic girls, ladies, came by and said, and she made a great point. And this is why I'm going to end on it. And I did a nice little tirade for you, but she goes, but why would, because people are saying now, they're not going to, one of the common things you see among us now is, they're not going to let Trump be president. Oh, and we're going to talk more maybe one day about, they're going to try and lock him up if he wins the presidency, right? And Kamala not certifying, right? We're going to talk about that more later. But she makes a great point. It's one we got to remember because, our friends have said, they're not going to let him be president. But she makes this great point. And the great point she makes is, but listen, why would God save him if God didn't have more plans for him and more plans for America? And I think that's a great point. I think that's a great point but go ahead, your comments on that.
Well, listen, it comes down to the same thing that out of Butler. There's a common thread here. This individual didn't arrive at the solution to want to kill Trump by accident. This wasn't something that was spur of the moment. Just like with the last one, this was it was a thought out plan. Whether it was a well thought out plan or not is debatable, but it was a thought out plan that required forethought. It required planning. It required resources. Both of them required all of that. They required resources, and they also required a high level of motivation, because I don't think, not that I've ever done anything like this, but I don't think you decide to pit yourself against something like the Secret Service and the incredible force that's protect. I mean, it's whether it's a strong force or whether you believe it's not, it's still a legendary force of having done a lot of things. And both of these shooters pitted their wits and everything they have against the Secret Service. So this, in every way, shape, and form, it was a dedicated individual who was doing something that they felt they had to do. And so when we look at that, we have to look at their motivation. And their motivation has to come from someplace, brother. It doesn't just originate out of a darkness, out of nowhere. There has to be some triggering
it originates
point.
Out of darkness. You're
does,
talking
but
about
that's not what I meant.
Right.
What I meant was there has to be some type of flame that ignites this. You can
gasoline.
Put
You mean somebody's throwing gasoline? You're saying somebody's throwing gasoline on it, right?
Right. There has to be some place.
You have a video.
You have this hatred that they develop, but and I'm going to say that a lot of the people that I run into and I observe, there's hatred on both sides, but I see a lot more hatred coming from the left towards people on the right. There's not even a level of respect from these people. There is truthfully what we would call Trump derangement syndrome. And so, as John pointed out, there is a video that I've been able to obtain, and this is Nick Shirley. For those of you who remember, we talked about him last week. This was done during the debate and the day of the debate. This video we're about to show you, so it's archived as a bit of information to help us understand. And here we go.
And who are you going to be voting for?
President Donald J. Trump and Vance. I want to. Yes. Oh,
You come
I
here,
know
ma'am.
She didn't
She
know.
did not come here, ma'am.
Do you have a uterus? Yeah. Then why in the world would you want to vote for Trump? I mean,
Please note the woman who's talking here is a white woman, and she
James,
has a
James, do you
Kamala
have a uterus?
shirt. Do you have a
Do you have a
uterus?
uterus, James? Do you have a
I do
uterus?
not. I do not have a uterus,
You
but
can. You sure, James? You can be a
I'm
woman
positive.
nowadays. You can have a
I'm
uterus.
positive. I'm positive. Here we go. Listen to this.
um, Melania looks very happy. Matter of fact, when he got shot, she was so terrified. I guess reality hit her. She's been by her husband. Remember, she never really wanted to get involved, but I think that woke her up. Trump almost lost his life. I mean, it's important to him, but his life. I wish he did. I'm sorry that the bullet missed.
Really? You wish the bullet would have hit Donald Trump?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Why do you wish the bullet would have hit Donald Trump?
Just to save the country.
You think Kamala Harris is going to save the country?
Yes. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I don't know if you saw, but she's also wearing a Kamala hat. I do want to jump ahead to the next scene here. There's another person who does provide information for us.
In the face.
I just think Trump is a human piece of garbage. Okay, that's. I just wish he would drop dead. Okay, I mean, it may not be nice to say, but that's the way I feel.
What can you expect to see from Donald?
So the difference here, brother, and I think the difference here is, and you can see it in that video. I welcome anybody to go watch the video. When asked about Kamala, the Trump supporters, they called her a Marxist. They called her some other unflattering names, but they didn't curse her out, call her a piece of garbage. They didn't call her, wish for her to be dead. They didn't do any of that. There's a part of where these people who call themselves never Trumpers, you've been a never Trumper for 9 years now. What do you plan on doing when he's gone, when he's no longer president? Because whether he wins in November or not, eventually he's not going to be running again. So what do you plan on doing with all this vitriol and hate?
They'll move on to the next Republican, James.
Well,
Just
that's
like they did. You could
kind
be
of the point.
You could be a transitioning Mormon grandmother by the name of Mitt Romney, and you're Hitler, right? And before that, it was George Bush was Hitler, right? And it is the derangement syndrome of.
Don't forget Dick Cheney.
Right, he was, and now look whose side he's on, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that video was actually taken in Philadelphia, outside of the debate, and that's what because the point I was trying to get to is this is the city of brotherly love, brother. By the way, right? And they were not being very brotherly to President Trump. So what is my point? My point is that there is a driving force on the people of the left that is calling Trump a threat for democracy. That's as you pointed out, making Trump akin to Hitler. And we've had that in the past. But what is the difference? Remember, no one tried to assassinate, Bush. No one tried to. Well, although there was the Iranian who threw the
Somebody
shoe.
threw a shoe, right?
Which I don't know if we can really count.
Oh, he does. I'm sure in his mind he does.
I'm sure he does.
I'm sure Bush goes, I ducked that. Me and Trump, he ducked a bullet. I ducked a shoe. We're the same. Me and you, we both are survivors.
So I guess, the point that I'm trying to make here is you get right down to it, and there's this vitriol on the left that's driven by, and you can see it in the cackling, comedic faces of Kamala, and you can see it in Joe Biden's angry fist thumping and tirades. Both of them have a tendency to dehumanize people. They talk about Trump dehumanizing people, but in actuality, the persons who are dehumanizing are those on the left. I mean, Trump doesn't go around calling Kamala a piece of human garbage. Doesn't go around calling for, the people who are voting for Harris as being threats to democracy. He doesn't say that. This threat to democracy is something that's genuinely new in American, that mainstream American politics.
Well, who's
The
the threat
sure
to
the
democracy? She's not elected. She's literally selected. She did a coup
Yes.
on the president. She
Well-
doesn't have one vote of the Democratic Party for voting for her in the primaries. Who's the threat to democracy? Who's shutting down all First Amendment? It's the Biden administration. Who's weaponizing the Justice Department and the elites in it to go after their rivals? That's him, not Donald Trump. Donald Trump passed on prosecuting Hillary Clinton, and he had every right to, and he should have, because she was breaking the law. She totally broke the law with campaign finance. So and the fact that he should be investigated and open up the fact that she had a server in her house with classified documents, and she isn't the president of the United States of America, and she had no right to have those classified documents in the server in her house. So she should have probably prosecuted that. But he said, "Oh, that would look bad," and she was the president, and I wouldn't do it. And you don't do it because we were not a third world country, but we are a third world country today, a banana republic, which is you have on your T-shirt today, which you forgot to do the mention for the Merc on today, thanks to these creeps, because they worship power and evil, and unlike us who worship God above and Jesus Christ. The Democrats have now become a party worshiping power and evil, the worshiping, of course, the baby murdering, because that's what they're all about. But that's the difference between that and that. And so he'll point out where she does wrong. Like her father was a Marxist professor. Well, that's the truth. Her policies are Marxist policies. Well, they are. But he doesn't say anything personally, about, like, he didn't bring up, he could have talked about her sleeping away with Willie Brown, right, all day long. All be comments about it during the debate. Hey, Kamala, you say you're pro middle class and you're pro family now. All of a sudden, are you pro woman? Well, let's ask Mrs. Willie Brown about that. Let's ask her about how much pro woman you are, how much pro family you are. Let's go ask her about that. Right? Are you defending? Are you gonna defend that? Are you gonna defend sleeping with Willie Brown? Right. So no, he didn't do any of that. He just points out the policies on that, because he is just like a harmless little fluff ball. All he does is punches back when somebody punches at him. That's part of his problem.
So we can move on to the debate. I do want to point out one thing before we do, though. This one part of the video that Nick Shirley had. Remember that the last person that we just had on was a black woman who was voting for Trump, and a white woman came up, and I only mentioned the color of their skin because this is something that's part of the demographic that's going to come up later in our show when we talk about the debate. So here is this woman. She said who she's voting for.
Is against Trump. They're going to make it look that way.
Is this your first year voting for Donald Trump?
Yes, it is. I've been a Democrat for 38 years. I did my homework on Republicans and Trump, and I changed my party. I'm a first-time voting Republican.
Do you think Donald Trump is going against Kamala Harris and the moderators?
I don't think so. No. I mean, I think they did a very good job of just letting the candidates engage with each other.
So we could talk about that clown in a few minutes, but I did want to point out that, again, you have a demographic shift within the voting electorate, and this is the shift that we're seeing. That woman was not. I don't think she's an anomaly. I think she's a growing trend. So, brother, do you want to shift now to the debate?
Sure.
So let's say, who do you think won? Was there a winner?
I'd said that Donald Trump won hands down, and that's against what everybody else says, but for a couple of reasons. Okay. Do you want me to elaborate?
Well, I'll tell you mine is. I think.
Go ahead.
I think he did do better than her, but he didn't bring home the complete victory. But I do think that what he did and also what she didn't do really makes a difference in this campaign season. So I mean, I'll elaborate on that after you.
All right. Well, I predicted. Listen, she was a prosecutor. So she was a frontline prosecutor for I don't know what, maybe 3 years, or whatever, before they promoted her to the point where she didn't have to do any actual work. So she can memorize like an opening of like 5 minutes, and she can memorize a bunch of things like that. And that's what she did. She had a bunch of slogans and talking points that were memorized that she hit back again, with him again and again. I said she was going to be able to do that. So Trump's hands were, of course, tied because he, of course, can't say anything because he is male and she is female. And the moment he would have done anything, she would have been able to justify her toxic female character assassination. What am I talking about that? Well, what we see today in cultural cancel and in culture canceling and with the girl boss nonsense and all the rest of it is, of course, a bunch of virtueless females that have taken over and hijacked the society. Now, the great, Bishop Blessed Sheen pointed out back in the 1960s that the level of any civilization is the level of the womanhood. So if you have virtuous women, you have a virtuous society. If you have virtue-less women in charge, then you have a virtue-less society. And right now, the virtue-less women are in charge, okay? And so if he'd done anything, for example, I had this conversation, I'm an attorney, I'm talking to this woman, and she goes on about, I swear to God, hit 20 minutes to half an hour about this man and about how the fact that this man is like, look at her window, and it's the window where her daughter was, and her daughter hasn't been outside for the last 2 years now and had to put up curtains because she's worried about this teenage, she's only a teenage girl, and that she's worried about this man looking into this, and all it is toxic female character assassination, to the point where I have to say, stop it. We're talking about a shared driveway. You have a dispute over a driveway. It's a property claim at best. But what you get is this evil, toxic female. So Trump's hands are tied. He can't do anything. Now, she's going to use every evil little communication skills that she does. Women can out-communicate men 1,000%. Sinatra is the great communicator of all men because he can sing. He's the only one that can sing at the level of a woman. Every woman, a singer, sings better than a man because there's so much more. If you look at it on the wave of the audio wave, so much more information and emotion gets into a woman's voice because their minds are operating so much at a higher level for communication skills. So she is using all these communication skills against him, and he is focused, not looking at her, focused on the issue. I have to really give him credits on that. He can't engage, not engaging on her to the very limited, because the moment he does, you abuser, he'll be getting that charge again and again and again. He's just he's literally being un-Trump. And it was a tour de force of him being un-Trump, which is great, because he couldn't do anything. And yet, what do you see from her? You see and now he could, for example, now men have, unbelievable, unless you believe in a girl boss nonsense, at any time, he could have gone and got boom and knocked her out, right? And if it was two men, you can always have that, right? You always have that dynamic, right? But he refrained from all that. And he didn't use his male boom knocking her out. And yet all she did was attack. And so on the surface, it might look like he lost on that battle, because as a man, he can't win that battle, right? The moment he does anything back, he is then you've now justified the evil female toxic character assassination, which is all they have, right? So what do you see then, though? Well, I've talked to women, and women are going, what does she think she's Vogue, putting her hand under her chin like that? Right. What is she, Madonna? She's not that, right? And so women are super critical, of that. But ultimately, he hit back about the important points. He didn't handle some of the things as well as he could, but really, he's not a debater. He's not a lawyer. He's never been that. He's a deal maker, and he's a business guy, and he scrupulously follows the business law, so that he doesn't wind up having to deal with lawyers like that, right? Lawyers are horrible, evil people just because of that. But what they do, as she was doing it again and again, she'll take a little bit of the truth and she'll parse it out and say that she's saying the truth And when really that's why the oath is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. It's the last two parts that the lawyers always fail on and they lie about and they lose credibility on. And so as she attacked and attacked and lied and lied and lied, and now we have generational lies. Now we have the Charlottesville lie, we have the bloodbath lie, where in the bloodbath he's talking about Mexico, and how great he was when he renegotiated NAFTA, and if he loses, and how he pointed out that we only have like 30% of the manufacturing left in our country for cars, and if he wins, if she wins, they're going to let all the jobs go in America go out to Mexico, and it will be a quote economic bloodbath. And yet that turned against him. Oh, he's racist. He's talking about a bloodbath because he's threatening us with the democracy that he's going to unleash his forces. Bullshit, lies, right? And or the other end, it's like he's a racist. He's going to put a bloodbath of his people against the illegals. All nonsense. He was talking about the economic bloodbath that's going to happen if these maniacs win, right? So that lie. Then there's the Charlottesville lie yet again. Oh, he's a racist with the tiki torque. And we now know that one of those guys, the tiki torque, the guy in charge of the Patriot Front, whatever, made a sweetheart deal that me or you will never get, because it is an FBI setup. It's to lure out the people. He got this sweetheart deal, right? And so we now know that was a FBI setup, right? And of course, Trump famously says, I'm not talking about the white nationalists and the neo-Nazis. He literally says it. And yet this lie is that he's a racist is told again and again and again, and never fact-checked by the evil fake press, right? Because they could easily debunk this and easily call them out on it and easily stop this 4 years ago, but they refused. 9 years ago, but they refused to, because it's a lie that they get to propagate again and again. So how does Trump win? Well, he is back on the issues. And just like when I saw him walk down the escalator, and the first thing that he said, one of the things that he said that I said that guy's going to be the president of the United States was, he said, and about the illegal aliens, they're not sending us the best people, right? That they went off on him and they tortured him over. But that's the absolute truth. Trump's secret power, his superpower, which makes him head above all the others. That's why the rhinos and the never Trumpers and the late to Trumpers can never get over this. Is his superpower is the same thing as Reagan's superpower. They say the effing truth. That's the truth. So when he makes that comment about the cats and the dogs, and they're eating our cats and they're eating our dogs, what he really meant was the ducks, right? Because they were eating the ducks out of the but they're also doing that because they're from Haiti, and we can get into what Haiti is about. And of course, Haiti is an island divided in half between it's one of the few, it's the only place in the world, I think, where it's an actual island. Half of it is a country called the Dominican Republic, and the other half is a country called Haiti, which, because of the outrageous slavery, is the most vicious, violent type of slavery. It also had the most vicious, violent rebellion against slavery, and it's had the most vicious, violent society since then, to the point where it's always been a disaster. And even today, it's being run by warlords, not even like a government. It's to the point, it's so crazy that even though the ethnically same people on the other side of the island called Dominicans won't let any of the Haitians over there because they're so crazy, eating everything. That's because of poverty. They're so poor. They'll eat everything, even the rats, right? So that's going on in Aurora, Ohio. Why? Because that's another one of these destroyed rust bucket towns with 50,000 population. They dump anywhere from 20 or 30,000 Haitians on that town, and they don't think there's going to be problems. And this is what they want to do. They're doing it because they're going to hope that they're all going to vote Democratic, because they're going to give them driver's license and let them vote in elections, because that's the Democratic plan. They're going to all vote for us because we're letting them all in. They could care less about the Venezuelan gangs that are now migrated up. They're going over the border and now taking over whole places in Aurora, Colorado. They're now contesting for turf and shooting up the domestic gangs and the Mexican, and they're now killing people right? You know, they don't care about that, and they don't care about all the rapists over the border. They don't care about it because they live in gated communities in zip codes with only other Harvard, Yale people in Martha's Vineyards. They don't care about all that. So when he says that true statement, they're eating our dogs and our cats, that's the thing that turns into a meme that everybody's talking about, going, yeah, say it with me now, my brothers and sisters, say it. Trump is right. Trump is right. Trump is right. That's the most, thing that you can never say. And these deranged people, that's why they're getting more and more deranged, because he's more and more right. It's more and more reality. It's the absolute reality. And that's why he won the debate. He's saying the truth. And so as she goes with nonsense and refuses to say anything, he's saying the truth. Yeah, they're murdering babies even after they're born. And just for the facts, just for the record, it is a fact that in Minnesota, in his in Governor Walz's a state that he's currently the governor of, you don't have to go to Virginia. In his state, they are his Department of Human Health Services had recorded 8 cases of babies being born after they're being born and then allowing them to die, right? And he passed that law. I didn't even know this was a thing. They're now passing laws. I think there's 3 states to 9 states that now make it a crime that if you interfere for 30 days after a baby is born, so they can murder the babies, so they can let the babies die on the operating table, or just not feed them, and so they can die, so they can murder babies after they're born. So he was again saying the truth. And no, you lying pieces of crap moderators. That's the other thing too, is he won the debate because he wasn't debating one person, he was debating 3 people. And he held them all off, as even though they told their lies. That I have to say that this is, even though people were saying this is the worst performance, I have to say this is his most controlled, on point, best performance of all the debates. And we're talking about it to that day. It's a week later. It's a week later because it's truth. And the memes, I have to say, they're the best memes I've ever seen of all these cats. You have cats like Secret Service cats. They're the funniest things I've ever seen. He's holding a cat. Trump's going
cats is special forces. Cats,
right.
him chasing or arriving just as the Haitian's about to eat a cat. Him busting through the door.
Because it's true. He's defending our cats.
Most of them are AI created, so it's almost like the AI generation of memes. It's got these completely outlandish things where Trump is running with 2 cats in his hand as he's being chased by Haitians, right? And then there's the one. Now there's the one that I just saw that's got the cat with the Trump hair. And it says 9. That's 9 lives, you bitches.
Well, he's like a cat now. He's got 2 of them, right? Yeah. I mean, think about that. Think of the lives that he's. Think about all the times where God had to intervene. Right? God had to intervene to get rid of Pence. One way you can look at the entire 2020 election to get rid of Pence, because Pence was the one that allowed the 2. Because they knew they could impeach him and they could get Pence, right? How many times has God had to intervene to save Trump? And we're hoping, just as my friend, the nice Catholic lady that pointed out, she's still not done with him. There's more that he has to do to save America and to save us for God's purpose, right? Yeah, well, the providence. This is what the founding fathers talked about: providence, God's hand, it's coming out from the great beyond to interfere and to put a hold on human history, to stop human history, to keep Washington alive, to keep to put these people, the right people, together, to create the United States of America, for a purpose, to win World War II, all these things.
So from my point of view, I think, only if you're done. Were you done?
I'm done. Go ahead.
So from my point of view, the initial response from people was that Kamala did extremely well and Trump didn't. But it's kind of like, when you have when you take a bite of cotton candy and there's that initial sweet sweetness, and then you realize that there's actually nothing there, right? That's really what Kamala was. It was that initial sweet taste where you think that there's something there, but there really isn't. A lot of people, if you can get past the ideologues and the people who on the left and on the right who will just think Trump won no matter what, or Kamala won no matter what. If you get past that initial feeling is Kamala did really well, but when you get right down to it, she didn't have anything to say. She didn't say anything groundbreaking. She didn't say anything that was meaningful, and Trump did. But he didn't have to say too much. If I were to ask you, John, or if I were to ask a Democrat, more likely, let's try that, or an independent, what is Trump's view on whatever, right? What is Trump going to do about the economy? What is Trump going to do about, Ukraine? You already know because he hasn't hidden it. He's laid it out. Everything he is going to do is written widely about, complained about by the Democrats and the Democrat media, which is the 95% of media out there. They have done the job. They have helped Trump by getting his message out there, although negatively. They know what Trump is going to do, and they recognize that over those 4 years, they had the greatest 4 years minus COVID of their life. Even the 20-something-year-olds can't deny that was the greatest time of their life. And the only people who are doing well now are the illegals that Biden has been letting in, and the bicoastal elite, if I can steal Victor Davis Hanson's phrase, the bicoastal elite that live in New York City and Los Angeles, the Gavin Newsoms and the Kathy Hochul's, the rich elites who are never going to be affected by a bad turn in the economy. They're going to do well.
Screw Victor Davis Human. I like our statement. We call them the aristocreeps. The one that turned the aristocrats like they're in Europe. They want to call them the aristocrats in America.
Going back to my point is the longer, as we move away from that night, what comes to play is those hard, cold facts that Trump used, right? Those things, the things that he said, those little snippets. Remember, he's the guy who said, I'm talking now. Like he turned that table on her. I'm going to give her a MAGA hat because she's using all my policies. Those are things that are just gold. They're pots of gold for people like you and me to take and put out there and meme it and do all things. And let's not forget about the cats, like you pointed out before. But I want to point out some hard, cold facts about reporting that, believe it or not, comes from, of all places, Newsweek. Newsweek has taken a look at the closing arguments for these two people, right? And if you look at it, they found that Trump's closing statement has had 24.7 million views. All right. And the closing statement for Kamala is 4.7 million views.
Wow.
Now, the likes for Trump is 1.7 million. The likes for Kamala is 220,000. So the numbers are hard to defeat because there's the media war when Trump is going up against 3 against 1, and then there's the second half of that battle, or the second battle if you want, which is who's going to control the narrative from that point forward. And it clearly seems to be Trump's message, because it's not, he's got a great staff that's putting this information out, but it's also his message is something that's being shared, it's being posted, it's being put out there, and people are picking it up and liking it. And I say that because he's clearly winning that point. But I want to go back to the debate because I was watching Rasmussen, and I'm going to give this complete credit to him. And I'm just going to put his video.
Is that because I have a point about that, because you made a couple of points.
You want to make a point about what I just described?
Yeah.
Or Rasmussen?
So, well, what are you going to talk about, Rasmussen? Because
I'm going to
that's
talk
the
about
polling.
independence.
That's the
I'm
polling.
gonna be
Okay. All right. Well, here I got something to throw in there. It's from when you it's from when you were running for Congress.
okay.
You did a speech when you were running for Congress, and it was in Newton
Yep.
and you did your speech. Of all the people making speeches, yours was the best. And I said, you know what, Jamie did a great speech, and the reason why was, you did it is because they say, they say it disparagingly, that you make a great speech, you have to talk like you're talking to eighth graders. And of course, what is your profession? You are professional. You professionally teach eighth graders, right? But I was thinking about that. Your speech was the best of everybody who did it, and it's like you were a natural at giving a speech. And so they say this disparagingly. Oh, look, you got to talk to people like Americans because they're stupid and they're eighth graders. No, that's not it. The more I thought about this is, I'm talking to one of our mutual friends, Louise, the great Gino, and what it is this. It's when reason why they say that you have to do this speech for an eighth grader is this. It's at eighth grade where really we all have our lowest common denominator. So that if me and you were talking history, or you and Luigi are talking history, or I'm Luigi talking history, well, we're historians. We have a degree in history. We talk with such jargon and areas that have been interested in us for our entire lives since eighth grade, right? So that there's a commonality of the knowledge that we have, that we don't have to go back over again. The reason why it's eighth grade is because that's when the knowledge that makes you an adult really specializes, and from
Right.
that you really learn. Like if you're going to be an English person, you're going to be this. Or if you're going to be a tech guy, you're going to be this, right? We could talk engineering too, because we have that from our father and stuff. But it's that at that eighth grade, and that's why your speech was so much better. And if you look at Trump, yes, hers was this lawyery bullcrappy speech, right? But Trump's is the man of the people speech, because he grew up working on living and working and talking to real construction workers, concrete guys, steel guys, rivet guys, business managers of those guys, right? And so he understands that language, and he's always been really a middle class guy, because of course they're the people that he really wanted to service in his casinos and his hotels. He wanted to give them and let them think that, oh, you come to a Trump casino and Trump hotel, you're getting the treatment that somebody from Harvard or Yale would get, right? You're getting the best.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that language, you made a great point there. Even when they're disparaging him by saying things like, even they're talking about negatively and they're mocking him, it's still resonating. The truth resonates. Like your point, she's talking, like you said, like bubble candy or bubble. It's empty. It's airless. It's nothing.
Yeah, it's airless.
It's
There's
nothing.
to it.
It's right. But with him, it's meat and potatoes of real life. It
Right.
resonates. And that's why, that's the secret of Reagan talking over all these creeps, and the secret of Trump talking all over these creeps and the fake media. That's why he has cachet.
Well,
That's why
and
they know they can trust what he says.
it's in many ways it's 2016 all over again, because they're doing everything they can to wreck him, and all they're doing is promoting him. And by the same token, the person that he's running against is soulless in many ways. There's no one that really likes her as a person.
Apparently,
You
she's
know,
a gun owner now.
and yeah, apparently, that's a surprise. But
That
I
was not on
I
my bingo card. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm. Oh yeah. By the way, I'm a gun owner. I got my. What's next? She's gonna be like Sarah Palin with an AR-15.
yeah. Now I
What's
do think
next?
that getting back to my point, she doesn't have a lot. She's not very well liked, and adding to it, you can try to manufacture anything you want, but people just don't buy into it. Just like they didn't buy into Hillary being that Southern girl, that Southern belle. They didn't buy into her being a person of the people, because she wasn't, and they don't buy that she's a woman of the people. I guess the person I'm trying to the person I envision that would be able to do something like that's a woman, would be someone like Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard was somebody who could do something like that. She could do that kind of idea where she said, where she would say something and you
Well, she
knew it was
was.
real.
She was just a regular volunteer for the
She,
military.
right. She was
She
an
was a regular
ordinary
boot
person.
camp and an ordinary
Right.
person, right?
Right. And but they rejected her. And why did they reject her? Because she was that authentic person that they couldn't handle. They couldn't corral her. And as I like, they don't have any pictures of her with the dog, doing something she shouldn't be doing. But they couldn't own her. So, but they can own Kamala. They can control her. They can make her do stuff and make her follow the rules. Now, I wanted to point out as my final point as to why it is even in that night. This is from Rasmussen and from Mark Mitchell, who he's the head pollster there. And what you're going to see is on the screen, and I'm going to see if I can't blow it up here for you. You're going to see the image in the line going across of when Kamala's speaking. The blue is the Democrat, the red is the Republican, and the yellow is independent, as you can see at the top. You'll see the line of, positive being above, negative being below. So if you watch this here a little bit.
But what it shows is absolutely fascinating. This is, I don't know what they call it. They get this little dial and they turn it up or down when they're happy when somebody's talking. And the yellows are independents here. And every time Kamala Harris opens her mouth, Republicans and independents equally hate what she's saying, but Democrats absolutely worship it. Now, again, this is a Fox News clip, but I'm sure they outsourced this. And Fox News pollsters are way left of us, so don't shoot the messenger. This isn't Fox News putting their thumbs on the scale, I don't think. But she's talking and talking and talking, and the Republicans and independents agree equally that they hate what she's saying. And what she's saying here is a bunch of stuff about how everybody should trust her economic plan because of no.
So now you can see Trump speaking and watch the lines of the red and the yellow. And you can see that the blue is going to go south on it. So the Democrats don't like what Trump is saying.
Laureates, because of professors, because of all the government agency folks that agree with it. Now Trump's talking and the independents and Republicans shoot up. Now I will say the yellow line is not as high as the red line.
So the point that I'm trying to make is he got to the demographic that he needed to hit. He got them.
Yep.
He got the independents, who are the only people in this race that are players. You're going to get the Republicans if you're Trump. You're going to get the Democrats if you're Kamala Harris. But the independents are, and according to Rasmussen and his further reports that he points out to, the independents are breaking towards Trump in a 49 to 46 split, and that's right now. Going forward, I mean, that could change. It might not change. She's still sitting in the basement. She's going out to prepared rallies. She's going out to prepared interviews. She went to recently. I think she went to a black journalist to do a sit-down interview, and that's 13% of the population, as opposed to Trump, who just walks into a room like he did that night and said, "Who wants to talk?" And they asked him all. They pepper him with questions, and he bang them out without hhesitation. That's the difference between the two. She can't handle any interviews, or very few set that they're scripted, and probably people, as reports are proving, probably people that she's paid off, that her campaign have paid off, and forced them to sign a non-disclosure agreement, because that's been something that, let's not forget that there's been a bunch of people who have come out and said, no, I'm not saying it. She offered me $10,000 and she wants me to keep my mouth shut about this agreement.
Yeah. Well, we know that she had that 48-minute interview with Dana Bash, right? And only 16 minutes of it is released. How come they?
Right.
So she has like editorial control over it and veto over what they release.
Yeah. No, it's clear. This is clear. And you know what? I think people are seeing that. That's what goes back to, there was 3 against 1. The people who are these independents are sitting here saying, I can't trust this woman. She can't even go up into a fair fight with Trump. She can't even handle herself in a fair fight with Trump. What's she going to do internationally? How's she going to be able to talk to Putin? How's she going to be? And John, again, 24 million people watched his closing argument, and he got 1.7 million likes. She didn't even get 250,000. She didn't even get 1/8 of what he got as far as likes, and she didn't get as many. She got a quarter, no, a fifth. I'm sorry, sixth actually, a sixth of the number of views that he did. That's a telling aspect of the campaign, but you won't see that in the polls unless you watch Rasmussen and a couple of others that are starting to break through. But I mean, that's where we're at, brother, with the debate. That's why I said initially you may think he didn't win, but the longer you step back from it, this painting is showing much more like a Trump win than a Kamala victory. So at least if he didn't win resoundingly, he won by a couple of hits, like a couple of hits that he batted in over her. He won in some respects. So that's what I have to say, brother.
Well, is that it for the show? Because it's been an hour.
Yeah, I think that might be our show. All right. Do you have any final thoughts, my brother?
Well, I could do the whole economic thing because you did bring it up, but maybe we'll say that for another day.
All right. Yeah, we should because we can break down some more of the debate as part of where her economic views and his economic views differ, which is like completely.
Night and day.
Yeah, unless it comes to something that she can steal, like his tips idea, and I'm sure Social Security, she's going to say, shouldn't be taxed either.
That's the next thing, right? Well, we don't know what's going to happen this next week. This next week we'll see more ginning up of hatred against the throwing gasoline on hatred of the Republicans from Dana Bash and company. We've missed that clip, but that's all right.
Oh yeah, but we should talk about that. We should talk about her. She should resign after what she did.
Yeah, we're calling for Dana Bash. Well, here, you want to play it then?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's put that up. We prepped it. Let's put it up.
Conservative activists who offered a $5,000 reward for such things, and then going just backly to the schools and the hospitals and so forth being overwhelmed. Nobody is disputing that the town of Springfield, Ohio, needs help, but you're not just a bystander. You're the senator from Ohio. So instead of saying things that are wrong and actually causing the hospitals, the schools, the government buildings to be evacuated because of bomb threats, because of the cats and dogs thing, why not actually be constructive in helping to better integrate them into the community? Because there are a lot of employers there who say that the Haitian workers are helping fill jobs that they need desperately filled.
Dana, first of all, let me just respond to a couple of things that you said, but I want to start with something you said, which I think is frankly disgusting and is more appropriate for a Democratic propagandist than it is for an American journalist. There is nothing that I have said that has led to threats against these hospitals. These hospitals, the bomb threats and so forth, it's disgusting. The violence is disgusting. We condemn it. We condemn all violence.
Senator, this happened after you and President Trump were on the debate stage, said that cats and dogs were being eaten.
You asked a question, Dana, and I'm going to go ahead and answer it. What we have said is that this town has suffered terribly under the policies of Kamala Harris. Now, you just accused me of inciting violence against the community when all that I've done is surface the complaints of my constituents, people who are suffering because of Kamala Harris's policies. Are we not allowed to talk about these problems because some psychopaths are threatening violence? We can condemn the violence on the one hand, but also talk about the terrible consequences of Kamala Harris's open border on the other hand. Now, let me just fact check a couple of other things that you said, Dana, because it's important. You said that all of these migrants are in the country legally. They're in the country through what's called temporary protected protective status.
Right.
That is when Kamala Harris waved a magic amnesty wand, taking people and giving them legal status. That is not to say that they're here legally. That is a terrible indictment of her amnesty policies that have further opened the border and further
but it's
caused
not illegal.
terrible migration into this country.
You might not agree with the policy, and obviously you don't, which is totally fair and legitimate. There are policy disagreements all the time, but the fact is it is the law because President Biden and Vice President Harris are. But I don't want to.
John, that was presidential candidate Dana Harris. Did you want to hear more of it, or is that enough?
So you want to hear some more?
I mean, it's up to you if you want.
Well,
to.
no. So who is doing the despicable thing here? Her version of reality is that you can't complain about letting illegals in and giving them amnesty, or letting illegals in and not knowing about them, whether they're Venezuelans who are gang members. And so you can't complain about it. Your job is just to provide for it, to get more tax money, meaning steal more money from honest taxpayers who do follow all the rules and do pay their taxes, steal their money and give it to these people who the president just gave amnesty to. But if you don't do that, then you're inciting violence. So by using her standards, who we now have not one but two assassination attempts on Donald Trump, thanks to the rhetoric that the good old Dana Bash allowed to happen. She had a chance to fact check good old Joe Biden about his lies. She had a chance to fact check good old Kamala and Tim Walz about their lies, about Donald Trump being a racist, about Donald Trump and the bloodbath, and about Donald Trump and the tiki torches and all the rest of it, and about Donald Trump being a Hitler, wanting to take over and be a dictator. She could have fact checked any one of those things, but she likes that lies, and she likes the propaganda that allows her to spew and to gin up these so-called lone wolves, to throw gasoline on the fire, to give them an excuse to take a gun and go shoot the opposition leader of the party that she hates. So who is the one throwing gasoline on psychopaths? Her. Who's the one doing? And by the way, I don't believe for a second, because I fact checked it, that it's a credible report that somebody is pulling a fire alarm in the building of Aurora, Ohio. I think that's another fake news story from fake government Democrats in charge in Aurora, Ohio, so they can cover up and they can like we're in danger. We're just like a good old Nancy Pelosi and AOC. The Republicans are trying to rape me. No, nobody wants anything to do with you. You snaggly, ugly creep.
But John,
take care of your own grandmother.
There's a couple of things. First of all, though, don't forget that she's married. That her, I guess maybe it's her ex-husband now. Maybe it's her current husband was the former CIA chief of staff. So I mean, this was a guy who was,
and one of the 51 people from one of the 51 creeps who lied in October and election interference in October, right before the 2020 election, lied and said that the laptop from hell, the Hunter Biden laptop was not real, was Russian disinformation, more Russia.
Biden used in the debate and the moderators used in the debate to quote unquote fact check Trump, when in actuality that was nothing.
And we now know that because the FBI under oath testified that yes, it was not corrupted. It was exactly what it was.
Many of those 51 were current employees and knew full well of they're employees of the NSA, FBI, CIA. One of the
they still had their security.
Agencies.
They still had their top secret.
They still had the security, and they knew the status of that laptop and that it was real. So, in many ways, this is just another form of a cover-up. But I want to pull back. I have a question for you, brother. I'm trying to understand something. I don't understand the connection between talking about cats being eaten and dogs being eaten and geese being eaten. Why that would cause somebody to make bomb threats? Why would that cause anybody to, create more violence? I really don't see the connection. So I'm wondering what connection is she trying to make? Like, am I missing? I want to know. Did somebody realize that they're talking about my cat that I was eating, and I got to go, I threaten to blow something up to get them distracted by it? I mean, what's the entire point of someone trying to make a bomb threat when they're talking about cats being eaten and geese being eaten and dogs? What is the connection? I don't understand that connection.
I'll tell you the connection. The connection is people on our side believe in a higher God. So because we believe in a higher God, we're not going to commit sins and like murder people and do all these horrible things and blow people up. We're just not going to do it because we know that our souls are at stake and it will eventually roast in hell for that. People on their side, on her side, all the thing they worship is money and power, right? And so they have no problem doing that. That's the connection. They have zero problem. This is the dog whistling. She's dog whistling. Yeah. This is why we're calling. This is why we're calling for her to resign. She's dog whistling to her people that this is okay. To this JD Vance is another person for her acolytes to go kill, to go murder. Listen, because he doesn't get along. He doesn't do what we say.
I can see the connection between them saying Trump is a threat to democracy, and then they're initializing somebody, they're activating people like the first shooter and the second shooter to commit an act of violence. I can see that connection. I cannot see a connection between somebody saying they're eating the dogs and cats and geese in Springfield. So, I'm just going to go out and make a bomb threat because Trump said there's absolutely no connection to that.
Well, the connection is that they are so desperate to gin up anything as, look, you're the evil people that are going to, like, the whole thing is January 6th. Look at January 6th. January 6th is exactly the same thing. That's a, quote, insurrection. And we make the point again and again. No, that's not an insurrection. How do we know? Well, because we can look back in history and we can see a previous insurrection. What do you need for an insurrection? Because we've actually had an attack on the Capitol called Bull Run twice, right? An invasion by a, quote, insurrection to take over the Capitol. And we've seen that. And what do you have to have? Well, first of all, you have to declare yourself that you're not part of America, right? Then you have to get together in your own states and call yourself the Confederates, right? Then you got to get together, get all a bunch of guns. You don't leave your guns like they did in January 6th in Virginia, right? You bring all your guns with you. You organize up in the units and you call yourself the Confederate Army, right? And you, of course, the number one thing you have to be is you have to be a Democrat to be an insurrectionist, right? But yeah, they're so desperate to turn it into an insurrection. So it's just like, again, they can burn down America, 30 cities, kill 30 people, and it's, quote, a mostly peaceful demonstration. But when our guys do it, you are a bunch of murderer insurrectionists, right? There is no moral equivalency between the Republicans today and the Democrats today. That's the problem. There's no moral equivalency between the Republican Party and the Democrat Party before. Today, we only have one American party. We have an anti-American party who worships the devil, power, and control. And another party, America, who's now filled with Republicans and Democrats, real Democrats and real Republicans. I mean, we're more Democratic in a lot of ways than we are Republican. In a lot of ways, we're that line, right? And you have one party and another party dedicated to Satan and following Satan. So they have to gin this up. So he has to come up. And again, I don't believe the report. It's another fake report from their so-called.
It's got to be fake. It's just like, I think the bomb.
It's just like good old Bowman, right? Good old Bowman and the Democrat congressman who pulls the fire alarm. I'll guarantee you again, another Democrat city council member or whatever to gin up another fake charge against Republicans. Pull the alarm in the Aurora City House. It says, "Oh, look, it's the Republicans did it." Jamal, who's the actor, the fake racist. Jesse Smollett. It's another Jesse Smollett incident.
Yeah, so I think that there's also some kind of like real issue going on here that's being missed. I do think the bomb threat does come from. I'm not saying the bomb threats aren't real. I'm just asking.
I'm saying they're not real. They're not.
I'm not saying. I'm not. No, I mean.
News service.
I mean, obviously the bomb. I'm saying. What I'm trying to get at.
News service.
What I'm trying to get at is the connection could be something beyond that. But there is no connection. There can be no connection between cats being eaten and dogs being eaten and there being bomb threats. It makes zero sense, and that's why I mean, while I do think JD nailed it well, I think it would have been just as important to say where would the connection be, because so I'm ridiculing her, because where is the connection that somebody's cat and dog is being eaten as being some fake news, and that's causing people to cause bomb threats and put me. What happened to personal responsibility? How about the person who's making the bomb threat is the guy who should be responsible for making the bomb threat, not some person, some politician, the people who are actually committing the crime.
James, it's
And
fake news. It's more fake news. It's just like they expected. Oh, it's just like the whipping. Remember, they had the migrants that were being whipped down at the border. Another more fake news. Oh, there's a bunch of Americans that are just going to be lynching all these foreigners because they're foreigners. No.
Right.
We don't do that. We're Americans, you creeps. You aristocreeps in your fantasy worlds that you live in your dopey utopias. You might think that because that's the way you disdain all of us. But you're a bunch of morons. You can't do anything right. You can't even. So I'm not going to trust anything you say, especially from, just as JD Vance had pointed out, she's not a journalist. What Dana Bash is a Democrat propagandist. That's all she is, and that's all the NBC, CNN, and CBS is today. Democrat propagandist.
On that note, brother, I think we should end the show.
All right.
All right. God bless. We're going to go out on one of Trump's statements and the debate. So everyone, it's all good.
Because God loves you.
Because God loves you. And on that note, brother, love you. Take care.
Well, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country.